sites that, oh, I guess I'll start now. So I picked out a few projects and case studies here that relate to the city of Guelph. Some of them are live and ongoing, and some of them are a bit more conceptual in nature, but they all derive from some policy conversations that have taken place over the last couple of years in the making. Um, so I'll kind of gloss through each one and kind of point to you the significance of each. But just to preface the conversation here, Guelph here is, I would say, probably one of the most geographically significant municipalities in Ontario. We're the first single tier municipality in Ontario. There are a couple single tier municipalities. Basically, what that means is we handle everything from our wastewater to stormwater management. We do everything in-house here, whereas other municipalities on the map, they typically have a upper tier municipality that they rely on for servicing and cooperation. So there's a lot of opportunities within Guelph's governance for us to kind of do everything in-house. And also we're situated geographically where we're just an hour and a half from Toronto, but we're also kind of the gateway to the rest of southwestern Ontario. So it's quite the place to be. We're at 150,000 in population and growing, and it's quite an exciting place to be. And we have a city core that's over 150 years old. We're older than Canada, and it's juxtaposed by all these suburban neighborhoods that have been propped up, including my ward in Ward 6, which has only been developed roughly the last 20, 30 years. So prior to the last 20, 30 years, it was mostly farmland. And you can see how exponentially the ward has grown. And part of the reason why I got involved in municipal politics, aside from going back to do my RPD, is there's a lot of interest in the community for planning related conversations, and I kind of position myself as someone that could utilize design thinking and visualization to help uh, provide more clarity for some of the community conversations that we're having. And that's why I have particular interest in this studio because you guys have a whole semester to figure out what you want to communicate in terms of your design aspirations and interests. And the sky's the limit. There's no ceiling in terms of what you could propose, but I can imagine as well that it can be quite daunting to figure out your site and what the scope of your project could be. But at the end of the day, this whole studio is about how do you provide clarity and sharpen your design thinking and design communication skills so that whatever application you choose in your career path to apply, you'll have some level of confidence to kind of pursue whatever you decide to do. So I preface that just to share with you how I've been utilizing some of my education in my role as city councilor. But I guess getting into it, the first project that has some significance in particular to my ward is there's 65 hectares that's sitting just on the edge of the city of Guelph, just on Niska and Ptarmigan, if any of you know the city. These are some land holdings that the Grand River Conservation Authority has had for quite some time, and it has a lot of community interest just because of the legacy of what the site used to be. Again, just on the corner of Ward 6 here and the south end, 65 hectares. There used to be a waterfowl park where the natural heritage system lies along the Speed River. And it's been an interesting conversation with community members because there are a lot of folks that would like to see a lot of the natural heritage be retained, in which it will be. But there have been a lot of conversations as well within the Grand River Conservation Authority for transitioning some of the uses in the lands, particularly the agriculture fields here. These fields are used as cash crop at the moment, and with some legacy agreement from a farmer that the GC has relations with for some time. but it's just sitting empty, and there's a lot of remediation work that has to take place. So this could be a fun project for some of you that are interested in some ecological restoration type projects, like the projects that you might have experienced with Karen's class in your third year. But so there's also some opportunities as well to kind of clarify some of the design parameters for what development can look like. So just looking at the zoning here, the 8 hectares here, there's some opportunity for some low density residential development. But what can that look like in a rural urban edge where you it's not quite an urban there's no expectations from the residents that it's gonna be fully built out, but at the same time we want to develop it out so we can provide some more housing and some community benefits. There's a future park that is in conversations to be proposed in the north end of Niska. So how can that be integrated towards the natural heritage system? And some of the policy frameworks as well. We have the official plan, some of our local zoning, and our planning process that kind of guides how development will play out. I guess it's not so important in this class that you dive in too heavily into some of the policy frameworks, but I would say there's some really great opportunity to kind of help, uh, I guess, set the conditions for what your design could be if you're doing like a park redevelopment or some urban design type work to kind of consider how that process can play out into the ultimate design of the property. Because a lot of people, they look at these lands here, it's sitting empty, it's sitting vacant. They're worried about development that's going to take place that will be encumbering to the existing community neighborhood. There's a lot of expectations that, the rural urban vibe kind of stays the way it is. So how do you use these tools and how do you use design to kind of communicate to people, okay, we're not going to have like a 20-story skyscraper here, but it could be a design that, but we can have some form of development that can actually make the community much nicer in the long run. Some precedents as well. I guess before that, this again, I alluded this used to be a waterfowl park back in the day. So there used to be some deer and some ducks that used to be penned here back in the day, and it was kind of like a zoo, a research center, a zoo, where um, kids would go for school trips, families would take their kids out to, and part of the Speed River here is actually dammed up, so that the water table can be much higher than what it naturally would be occurring, so that some of the ducks can wade in here. It's quite nice, but unfortunately, some of those man-made interventions have caused a lot of pollution. So there could be a great case study for any of you that are interested to look at how do we rehabilitate the site so it can follow the natural water course for what it should be. And again, these are all ongoing community conversations that are happening right now as we speak. Some precedents, Terra Nova Park in Richmond, BC is a great example of a similar land use. It also used to be kind of a rural urban farmstead next to the dike by YVR Airport. The community and the city of Richmond back in the day, they took a lot of steps to rehabilitate the space. And HAPA Collaborative out in Vancouver, they were a big part in this parks project. They for some of the park features, they use a lot of natural timber and a lot of natural uh, wood chips as well to kind of create that sense of space. We also had 2 years ago some MLA students take a case study of the site and propose what community-based planning process could look like if we're introducing some affordable housing and also introducing a community park element. So there's a lot of great work that's already taken place on this site that involved our MLA studio. So there are a lot of resources available for this site if any of you are interested. And again, the site's sitting vacant. You're technically not allowed to go onto the property, but people they take their dogs out for a walk all the time. So there's a pressing need, and uh, especially in this term of council that I'm in, to kind of move things along. So next site, if any of you are interested in more active transportation, design, transportation design, Gordon, this stretch of Gordon Street from Edinburgh to Lowe's Road here, hopefully by the end of this year is going to see some construction. We're looking at some center turn lanes and some widening of the stretch of Gordon Street. There's been a lot of issues in this area with some poor grading and ponding issues that have taken place because of some of the mid-rise development that have taken place. Um, so the city is looking to really make Gordon Street a nicer place to bike and drive alongside. We have a lot of mid-block collisions that take place every year. If you're making a left or right from some of these condos, it's really not a great place. But we're planning to widen the road and put some multi-use paths on the sides. So this could be a good case study for any of you that are interested in active transportation and how you can how you can propose some design interventions to make the streetscape a lot nicer. Um, this over here is one of the city's last remaining green fields. It's the Clare Maltby secondary plan area. So the last decade, the city undertook this massive study for how we can propose new land uses for this part of town. And it's just behind the movie theater, but the Pergola movie theater on Clare. There's there's a few parks that are being proposed. So if any of you are interested in more of that macro lens of applying parks master planning, this could be a good case study to undertake. Or if you're interested in looking at what a community park, like a model of a community park could look like, or different park typologies could look like. This could also be a nice study. And this is actually a rezoning that took place. It's not a live project that's happening right now, but a rezoning that took place for the where the movie theater is on Clare Road. So this actually freaked out a lot of the folks in the nearby neighborhood because there's affinity for the movie theater, obviously. But First Capital, the developer and the asset management company that owns these commercial plazas, they were looking at what rezoning could look like, so they can position themselves in the future if the market is more favorable for um, mixed use commercial retail compared to the movie theater that they have, and and there's significant parkland dedication that would take place with this amount of density that they're proposing. So this, if any of you are interested, what can a new park look like in the space? And also, how do we use some design interventions to ease some of the traffic and pedestrian circulation issues that this place uh, has in relation to some of the new townhouses that are being put up. There's a new community center that's happening and some stacked towns and an extension of Poppy Drive. So you can imagine for some of the folks that live in this neighborhood, they're concerned perpetually about the impact of density with regard to their traffic flow and circulation. So we as designers, how do we use our design thinking to kind of navigate these conversations and help planners make better decisions for how to put in, something as simple as a new pedestrian crossing, right? Um, and a lot of resources on this already. There's a pretty significant urban design brief that First Capital put together with Bosefield. So if you guys need any precedent studies or any background information, this is a really good existing project to look into. And this is probably one of the more exciting projects that we have. Fusion Homes, one of the bigger in-town developers, they've partnered with Big and Sasaki and MHBC, the planning consultant, to look at what the innovation district could look like. So these are the lands just behind the Arboretum. This actually used to be owned by the university, but they put it out in the market and, for a bid, and Fusion Homes, the last couple of years, they were able to acquire the site. It's right beside the old reformatory and where Cargill is. So this has traditionally been an industrial area, but now we're having community conversations on what mixed use could look like and what more density for residential could look like. There's a lot of employment lands as well that was conceptualized to look like what you would see on Stone Road, where the provincial building is and some of the federal offices are. Sorry, this is Stone Road, I think, right here. So we're having to navigate some community conversations on what more residential could look like and what new mixed use could look like. So there's some good opportunities here to kind of help conceptualize what live work could look like, because as we know these days, a lot of employment doesn't necessarily equate to bigger square footage, especially for anything in the tech sector. So we had to have a big conversation with city council as well to talk about how do we actually maximize the land uses, um, because we had a secondary plan that took place on the site that uh, lent itself to more traditional forms of employment. But of course, especially with COVID, we've seen how trends of social trends and work trends have changed. So I think if you're interested, have visualizing what these linear parks could look like and some of these community parks could look like in relation to this mixed use model. If you're interested, this would be a good site. Downtown Guelph, we're doing a lot of work. This is one of the probably most significant capital projects that we're absorbing in this term. St. George's Square is going to be um, completely redesigned. Um, and a lot of this is prefaced on some of our sewers and main water infrastructure needing to be replaced. Guelph is over 150 years old. We're actually celebrating our 200th anniversary pretty soon, and we have old clay pipes and sewers that have cracked and are dilapidated. So if you look at the streetscape as like a cake, we're gonna go all the way down to the foundation, and on top of that, we've been able to look into some new streetscape work that is going to be quite significant for the stretch of Wyndham Street. So if any of you are interested in looking at what um, different streetscape typologies could look like, especially for more flexible interventions, this could be a great project. And you have the existing downtown revitalization work to use as a precedent to kind of, um, I guess, compare your assumptions that you could make for your own design if you were to do so. Um, Anyways, these are just some of the projects. I write about some of this work on my newsletters, and I document it online on my website. So if you're interested in seeing how I have these community conversations with my constituents, just as some background information, feel free to look at some of my work. And I'm also quite active on social media as well. So if you want to stay in touch and you have any questions, I'm always happy to make myself available, especially to students. So feel free to get connected. And if you want to formally contact me over email or text, you're welcome to do so as well. Um, and yeah, that's about it. And I guess I'll leave you with this quote here that I saw in some OPPI magazine. Meaningful interdisciplinary work is key to solving complex issues. And this is what you've been taught over the last 3, 4 years. Okay, you got to do your inventory, your analysis. Can you repeat that product process iteratively? And that's how you can get a meaningful outcome. So I would just say, yeah, take this time now from the end of the semester to really reflect on what you've learned and see how you can apply that in a meaningful way. And uh, the ceiling is as high as you make it. and that can be quite overwhelming. But at the end of the day, it's what you make of it. So don't be intimidated. We're here to help you, and I'm certainly happy to make myself available as well to you.